So welcome back to the podcast. This is Bread Ends, the Christian podcast.
_ends.
That's our Instagram. So this is a podcast hosted by both Dylan. You, Dylan. Go.
Me. I'm Dylan.
And Noah. That's me. Finally. And this is the podcast where we cover Christian topics and we just discuss different things that are going on in our Christian life. Today, we're here with our second guest.
With a mutual
Associate. A friend. A brother in Christ. We're here today with our guest, Sam. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Sam.
Hey, Sam. What's up? Hey. You want to say a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I am I just finished my freshman year.
You're a sophomore now, baby.
You're a sophomore, baby.
Something like that at Boise Bible College.
Woo.
My degree program is Family and Youth Ministry. And I'm excited to be here. I'm going to be Dylan's camp rep partner for the summer.
Woo.
Spoilers.
And after I joined Dylan as a roommate this year, and it's been lots of fun and just exciting.
Cool. And so, as per usual, we like to do with our guests. Sam's here for a secret purpose. He's not here just for shenanigans and fun. For serious business.
Secret purpose?
Secret purpose.
I like secrets.
I mean, you could probably already tell by the title of the episode. Today, we're going to be talking about camp stuff. That's going to be in our main Mia stuff. Down in the description, I'll actually have time codes of when things are. So the main content is going to be going over our camp memories. So yeah, if you want to jump over there, there's that. But to start off the podcast, we're going to talk about how we're doing. So let's start off with our guest. Sam, how are you doing?
Noah, I want to start off with the fact that I feel the question, how are you doing, is a loaded question.
Ooh.
And I feel angry that you've asked me this. But that's okay. I think I'm doing okay. I'm struggling with some end of the year anxiety, and I'm excited about getting to go home for a little bit, and then just seeing what the summer is gonna bring.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, sorry, didn't mean to be a loaded question, but
It's always a loaded question.
is it really? Why?
Always.
Wait, how's it a loaded question?
Yeah, we ask it every week. Tell us.
Is that how it's a loaded question?
In my brain, it's a loaded question because you either have to lie and say
Don't lie.
everything's perfectly okay, or
Don't.
you have to tell someone the truth. And I feel like having to tell the truth is just,
It makes it a
not
loaded
always
question.
fun.
No,
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
You know what? I think that's important because I could shared a little in depth about the podcast. I mean, that's partially why I wanted to put in this segment. I mean, normally people have that little introduction of oh yeah, small talk, how you doing, yada yada. Oh, good. Okay, cool. Let's move on to the actual stuff. But I think it's important as Christians to basically get together and actually check in with each other and see how each other is doing. And I would hope that this would be a segment where we could be more genuine. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to be genuine a lot, especially for us, it's easy because we're friends. But if you weren't, this would have been really oh, wait, you don't really know me that well. How am I supposed to be genuine with you and be vulnerable? Yeah.
See, and my answer was genuine, but I also have to, in my brain, just pretend that I'm talking to you guys and not that people could listen to this on the internet.
Nobody
and,
listens
hear
to this.
that.
Nobody listens to
Hey
this.
man, I listened to this.
Yeah, I know. Okay, we actually mentioned you in earlier podcasts about how you fall asleep to listening to us. And that's actually what we're going to be telling viewers from now on, or listeners from now on, to do, is to be like Sam and fall asleep to our podcast. It's the primary way to listen to our podcast. While being awake and conscious? No. While you're asleep.
Look, you guys have very nice and soothing voices.
Yeah. And
And so it's very nice to go to sleep to. It's comforting.
And we have beautiful faces.
Well, yeah, but
Oh.
they can't see
I
it.
felt like that was important to somebody. Well, thank you for sharing, Sam. Okay, goodbye. Leave the stage. Start the podcast.
Adios.
Oh no! Dylan, how are you doing now? My co-host. Wait, before you start, can I be rude?
Yeah.
Interrupt? Okay. Just for the little insider's peek for the listeners. Right now, Dylan and I are sharing a mic, and we're like facing Sam right now.
Shoulder to shoulder.
I feel like we're really like interrogating him, like a really badly done like good cop, bad cop. But I think it's working.
I'm good cop.
What have you done, Sam?
I would not like to say that on the air. If you want to know what I've done, talk to me afterwards.
That's the
Would you
Christian
like
way
a
to do
lawyer
it.
present?
That's the Paul's way to do it.
No. I'm perfectly fine with incriminating myself, but not on the air.
Perfect. Okay, sorry, Dylan. How you doing?
Thank you, Noah. There's a lot going on right now. I feel like I say that a lot. But I had my car break down on me. It's broken. Gonna be a costly mechanic bill. That sucks. And then all my friends just left because we graduated. Not we graduated, but they graduated and they went home for the summer. So that sucks. Today and yesterday we had a lot of training. It was good training, but I'm really tired. And so, life's fine. Life's a peach.
Yeah, you were sharing that last week about how you're super tired and just barely getting rest. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's just good to hear that.
Quick question.
Thank you
Dylan,
for
are you
being
allergic to peaches?
No,
Okay.
What?
just oranges and bananas.
I knew you were allergic to some fruit, but I wasn't sure if peaches was one. You said life is peaches, so I was just a little worried.
Sam, you want to tell them what happened the other day with the oranges?
Oh, I casually forgot that my friend Dylan here was allergic to oranges. And during our training, we were given oranges as snacks. And so me, being the forgetful friend that I am, I'm sitting here eating these oranges right next to Dylan. And I am playing with the orange peel, which is really the part that, sets Dylan's allergic reaction off. And as I'm tearing apart this peel, spreading all these juices right by his person, he kind of starts coughing. He goes, "Can you not? Can Sam? I can't breathe." So felt like a bad friend.
And then I sneezed for like the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, he did.
It was fun.
I'm gonna be truthful here. I didn't know you were allergic to oranges. I knew
Nor
about
bananas.
I knew about the bananas because we witnessed that.
You knew about the bananas because you fed him bananas.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No, that's a huge misconception. Actually, we had a bunch of bananas, and then midway through eating them, Dylan's like, "Man, I'm allergic to bananas, but I'm gonna keep eating." And we're like, "You're allergic to bananas? Why are you eating this? Stop, please."
It just makes my throat hurt. They still taste good.
And he kept eating them. What a man.
I will say I've had this argument with Dylan.
Well, I mean, I think it's my turn. My turn to share.
Yeah, how are you
Noah,
doing?
How are you?
Oh, thanks for asking me. It's good to hear two people ask me. It's like greater than one. So how I'm doing, I think I'm on the other side of the what is it called? Pendulum?
Tracks.
Other side of the tracks?
Yeah.
Railroad tracks. I'm doing pretty good, and I think I have a solution to the reason as to why I'm here as doing better.
Jesus.
Yeah,
Is it
basically
Jesus?
Basically Jesus. So I'll talk about this more later, but alongside doing my reading plan, I spent a lot of money, and I spent it on audiobooks. And so now at work, normally at work I just listen to music. I do listen to some podcasts. Ooh, podcasts. But I wanted to push myself into being more in the Word. So that's what I started doing. Is I got the Bible on audiobook. I got a really theatrical one, so it's very dramatic, but it's like really well made. And so yeah, just since alongside doing my Bible reading plan, also listening to the Bible. I don't listen like the whole my whole shift. Like I listen for like the morning part, and then like yeah, I don't know. It's just being in the Word a little bit more has been a good experience so far. And yeah, that's how I'm doing.
That's really good, Noah.
But I'm also sad.
Well,
proud
why?
of you.
Why?
Because my fiance is gone because she's gone to her sister's wedding.
Why?
And so
Why you feel sad about that? You're not one yet.
I miss her. I love her. I'm going to be married to her, so I miss her.
Yeah, but you're not. You're only a fiance.
Ah.
I'm just kidding, Noah. You can feel sad.
Yes. Yes.
I also feel sad.
Why is that, Dylan?
Everyone I love is gone.
No. I'm here, Dylan.
I also feel sad, but that's not unusual.
What a great start to the podcast. We're all sad boys. We're ready to start this. You know what? We're going to be talking about camp memories. This is the perfect time. We're going to slide wait, actually, breaking news before we can move into our topic. Our next segment, Crummies. I have to say this, Dylan. Don't look at me like that. I don't have a choice in the matter.
Since
You
this
just
is my
look-
first
wait, no,
time,
stop.
I don't have any crummies, right?
No.
You're looking at you
Except
sleep.
falling asleep
You
to the
sleep.
podcast. Okay, I did fall asleep while you guys were recording the last episode.
I don't
Like literally in the room with you.
Sam, I don't feel bad about it. At least the normal sleeping through the podcast, because like it's actually gotten me thinking about. I'm like, I can also start playing the audiobook of the Bible while I sleep. Sam has something
osmosis.
to it. Yeah, Sam actually is onto something. He's a genius.
I try.
And he does. So, Crummies is a segment where we set aside a segment of the show to allow listeners at home, if you find anything in our show at some point, even it's like way in the past, we allow you to message us and come in contact with us and let us know something that's we either got wrong, something you disagree with, or something you have a different perspective or different view on. And you can contact us at breads_end, BREAD_ENDS on Instagram. And if you just direct message us, we'll either bring this up and talk about it on here, or even if you don't want it and you just want to talk to us personally, and yeah, that's a great way to talk to us. But with that out of the way, let's talk about church camps.
Church camps.
So, as Sam mentioned earlier, him and I are going to be traveling to 8. You're nodding. It's not a visual podcast.
Yes, 8. I was
8.
confirming that for you,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
for
Yeah.
them.
This is a conversation.
Okay.
8 different camps this summer,
Yes.
spanning from Montana to Washington to Idaho to Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
What's a camp rep, Sam?
A camp rep, at least in our sense, is someone who goes to the summer camps and while we are there to represent our college and kind of get people intrigued.
What college?
Boise Bible College.
Ooh.
The thing that our boss often tells us is that we need to first focus on caring for our students, and if the chance to talk to them about the college comes up, then that's great. But we really want to just be there to serve God and help out in these camping ministries.
Yeah, and we're going to do great.
Yes,
I'm excited.
I'm very excited.
So, yeah, what I want to talk about today is our camp memories. So this is going to be both while ourselves has been in camp as young lads, as kiddos, and then also just, maybe some experience while leading and being a part of a camp as, staff leader, etc. So who wants to start off first? I feel like Sam has the most experience in this department. Dylan put his finger in his nose. That means he goes. Isn't that how it goes? Nose goes?
Nose goes means you're not going.
Yeah, last one to put his finger in his nose is usually it, but like the wording is literally nose goes. So
well, I can go first.
you want to go first?
Sure, why not?
Ooh,
I don't know.
get it.
You know, I might just say some sporadically throughout this, but
That's usually what we do.
there's lots
so
of them.
That's spot on. You wouldn't know because you always fall asleep, but like
You're right. I
your
don't think
conscience
I've
is
ever
there.
made it this far into an episode while listening. I've been going. As a kid, because I'm 22 now, going on 23.
Mhm.
I started going to church camps at 8 years old,
Okay.
and I grew up Assembly of God, so I went to the same church camp every summer. I didn't actually realize that there was any other way to do camp for a long time until I started talking to other people from like different churches and stuff. But I've had some fun experiences. One of my favorite memories all throughout my time as a camper was we always had a mud day at our camp. So
Explain that for me.
yes, so I'm from Arizona, and so it was the Arizona Assembly of God Youth Ministry Camp, and or children's, whatever age I was when I was doing it.
Mhm.
But at least when I was going, I don't know what it is right now, but it was a 5-day camp. So you would come the first day, second and third day were like regular camp games, and then on the fourth day it would be mud and water day. Mostly mud, but that's because there's nothing but dirt there.
And water and dirt makes mud.
So literally,
Yes.
the movie of Holes, but like the last scene of that show.
Yeah.
Wait,
So
just friends.
but we would play. We had a little grass field that we would play some water games on, and then as each camp team rotated, we would do different things. There was one where you'd have to like climb Mud Mountain is what we called it. So you'd have to climb through this giant muddy mountain, grab a ball pit ball.
Mhm.
So you'd grab that at the bottom, you'd run up with it, you'd slide down, and you'd go and put it in a certain bucket, whichever bucket was for your team. If you wanted to be, efficient and fast, which I had to do sometimes being on, there was one year I was on a small team, and I would jump from the top of Mud Mountain to the bottom. And I'll get a little bit more into that later, because
man.
that was one of my many church camp injuries.
Oh gosh.
And then there was like Tug of War and Gaga Ball. And I know lots of people play Gaga Ball in churches, but I didn't realize you could play it not in the mud until I was about 16. Because that's the only way I ever played it.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I think that's the first camp memory that I've got, and it's something that has been throughout all of my camping years. So it's a good one to kind of start with before I let you guys get into some of your memories.
Yeah, of course. No, thank you. Thank you for sharing. That was awesome. Dylan, you want to go up next?
Yeah. So, as mentioned in previous episodes, I'm one of those dreaded PKs, pastor's kids, and my dad was the youth pastor. So, I don't think I've gone one summer without really going to a church camp. And because of that, they all kind of blend together. Even in college now, this is my third year camp repping, and so yep, church camp's a big thing. Let me just think. One of my fondest memories, one of my earliest memories was being just a little tyke up at a high school camp. My dad was like helping direct it, and it was like a wilderness camp, or something where basically it was like all like survival themed. And one of the games was my dad got somehow one of the Idaho fisheries to fill like it was a hole that they dug, and they put tarps on it and they filled it with fish, and you had to catch your own fish for dinner. And if you didn't like fish, there was something else. But like, it was like team building. You had to catch a fish, otherwise you weren't eating. Everyone caught a fish. Well, after that was over, that pit that they dug for the fish, they filled with mud, and we had mud tug of war. Well, it's just made mud because it's so many church camp memories revolve around getting messy. But I have vivid memory of being a little kid walking up to the edge of this mud tug of war thinking I knew that the other teams were stronger than me, but as I was going out through the day, like people were like, oh, and like falling in, like actually like being like a kid to me, you know, I pull and they'd be like, oh no, and fall in. They wanted to be in the mud. I wanted to win tug of war. And then I got a group of boys that weren't going to let the little kid win. And I got pulled into the mud and I cried.
That's rough.
Yeah.
That's rough, buddy.
I just remember I was like, this is my favorite shirt. It's like, then why were you wearing it on mud day?
Yeah.
I was young.
I don't know.
Well, what age counts as young here?
I honestly have no clue, man. Like, this is one of those memories that's like, it's either my memory or a story or a pseudo memory because I just heard so many stories that I just made it up in my head. But I remember wearing my Orange Monsters Inc. shirt. That's the one I remember.
Okay. I've heard stories of that shirt.
He's still traumatized to this day.
Yeah, I don't play tug of war. I don't play competitive games anymore because.
So, real quick, your survival camp really brought back a camp that I, often
repressed.
Yeah, a little bit. So, like I said earlier, I grew up Assembly of God, and part of Assembly of God was doing like a Christian Boy Scouts, which was called Royal Rangers. And
that's a cool name.
It really is.
The RR.
It was really cool to me as a kid. And I think now as an adult, if I ever thought about going back to Assembly of God, no, this is nothing against them, but it's not a denomination that I'll probably ever work with just because it's a whole extra set of credentials that I would have to get after Bible college to even work with them. And I feel that I can do ministry just as well anywhere else. But so Royal Rangers was really fun, and I enjoyed it so much that I decided to go into the extreme version of it, which was called FCF, Frontiersman Camping Fellowship, which sounds really cool to, a sixth grader who has spent, since the age of 6 doing nothing but Royal Rangers his whole life. Well, so me and 2 of my friends that were in Royal Rangers, we trained. We literally trained. We would go. Excuse me, I'm sorry. We would go one Saturday out of each month to the town over from us, and we would sit with the guy who was in charge of our state's FCF, and he would train us and teach us, all the, like 18 different knots that we had to know. We had to practice hatchet throwing and knife throwing, and we just learned all these really cool skills. But so finally it comes time for the camp, and, we were told, bring 2 pairs of jeans, bring whatever shirts, a sweater, bring stuff, like sleeping bags and stuff. And then you have to bring a certain amount of chocolate Hershey bars, which I didn't understand. And
yeah, that sounds very weird.
Yeah, they asked for a specific amount too. And I guess all the other like cities in our town could like find this specific size chocolate bar, but no one in our town could. So we had to buy a bunch of little bars and add it up. I really still don't understand the point, but we kind of get there. And the older experienced kids who were putting this test on for us, because it was like a test camp, they came up to us and they said, okay, pull your chocolate out. And they stole half of our chocolate. Just, they literally told us to bring chocolate so the older kids could steal it from us. It was
Did you learn your lesson?
Yeah, they left me some, so I was kind of okay with it, even though I don't really like Hershey bars anyways, so it wasn't that big of a deal, but I was like, that's weird.
Yeah, it's very weird.
But so it was a weird camp. It was the first time I ever tried crawdad, and I actually surprisingly enjoyed it, despite hating all other things caught in the water.
It's a weird setting to eat crawdad.
That's because it was next to a stream, and that was literally the only thing we could actually have to eat because we had to eat what was caught.
That's what we caught.
Yep, we caught crawdad. We had to learn how to set beaver traps. They're like bear traps, but smaller and in the water. And I definitely did get it caught on my finger.
Oh.
Yeah.
God.
And I
That's sad for the beaver, though.
Yeah, honestly.
Oh, you feel bad for the beaver,
No.
but not for the fish.
Look, it did some pretty rough damage to my finger. It would have definitely mutilated a beaver's foot.
Well, yeah, that's what they're for.
I don't like it.
I mean, I grew up on a farm with like gopher traps. Like
Gopher traps are cool.
I don't know.
God,
You
your
know,
hand stuck in one of
it
those.
was
Hurts.
it was definitely something, but this whole camp was just kind of out there. It was
Yeah.
it was freezing cold, and so at some point the leader that I was there with, one point during the night, because I was shivering, gave me an extra pair of his pants to put over myself and an extra sweater that he had, and his blanket, because I was a tiny 12-year-old and was going to freeze to death, and I felt really bad about it.
Oh.
Like, I felt so bad that I took this man's like
Everything.
like he had clothes on and he had other
Yeah,
clothes, but I was
obviously.
like, I was unprepared. And the worst part about this whole camp, this is really my trauma from it, is I am perfectly fine relieving myself in the wilderness when I get to stand as a man. But if I have to squat, I'm really not down for it. And the only way to go number 2 was a giant bush, literally a giant bush in the middle of camp. They said, you gotta go. There's your bush. Everybody goes there. And I said, I will not use the restroom the entire camp. So I didn't. I held it in for 3 days.
So
That's not good.
No, it's not.
this really symbolizes a thing I was gonna bring up, because I was kind of hoping, with how we were flowing, like, okay, we'll start off some like, okay, fun things we've done at camp, and then maybe some Christian stuff that was really influenced or really impacted us through church camps, and then ended off with some weird stuff that has happened at camps for us. Maybe some bad experience. Because let's be honest, there's some camps that aren't on par as some others, as we've heard from Sam's account so far.
Look, I have more trauma stories. We'll get to it though. We'll get to it.
I feel like now I have to share my account of a fun story, because you guys have kind of shared like a funnish story. I don't know, camp. I've only been to camp twice, so I don't have that much to pull from. Yeah, I don't know. For me, was since we went to Camp Sawtooth, which I think is in Idaho. It might not be. There's Lake Sawtooth, and so we had the pretty common, if there's a lake, go to the lake and swim at the lake day. So yeah, I don't know. That was fun to me. I always like swimming, even though I'm like deadly afraid of the water because of horror movies I watched as a child of like monsters. I'm like, Jaws or a crocodile is gonna get me, even though they don't exist here. They're gonna get me. And so I don't know. That would be my fun experience. Was doing the swim day.
Swim days are fun.
Are they fun?
Sam was a lifeguard.
I was. That is a good point. I was a lifeguard at a camp. Because while I've done plenty of camps as a kid and as a camper, I also love camping ministry, and so I did spend a summer working at a summer camp in Idaho, where I had many roles, and a lot of them were background, so there wasn't too much interaction with the students. I definitely did get to, create some meaningful relationships, but I did a lot of background stuff. And my favorite 2 jobs for that summer was being a lifeguard and being a ropes course facilitator. Both of them are very, very fun, very much ones that I get to actually interact with the students. So just being able to not only see camp from a camper's perspective, but also getting to see it as a staff's perspective really, kind of changed my view on how camps work and stuff.
Yeah. Dylan, do you have any fun water experience with camps? Since we're on our water theme now, I guess.
A lot of camps that I've been to have ended with a whitewater rafting day, and so those are always fun. Go down either the North or South Fork of the Boise River. Just paddle the boat.
Just paddle the boat. Okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't know. Wait, how are we feeling about? I guess I can share more of my experience. So yeah, as I said, I've only been to 2 camps. So one was as a child, as a young lad, and then the other one was actually as a chaperone for a group. So those are my 2 main experiences. But yeah. I feel like we should just keep going with experiences as a child, stuff like that, and then later we can lead into actual adult experience of it.
So another fun story is all of my camp injuries.
Go into it. I'm ready.
Yeah. So
I like how you say all of them. You don't say oh yeah, my camp injury. Oh,
no,
wait,
there's multiple.
Oh, someone always gets injured at camp. It's a
Were
rule.
Sam, were you always that kid?
There was a decent chunk in time. Let me start this by my first serious camp injury that I ever had was 100% my fault. At the time, I was dealing with a lot of anger issues that were very much unresolved and kind of unnoticed by a lot of people. And so my first real camp injury was, I think, my freshman year of high school, and I'd gotten very angry, and I'd punched essentially a giant boulder, and had broken 2 knuckles on my hand.
I've heard the story. This was at camp?
Yes. And mind you, I definitely broke them the first punch, and I didn't stop hitting stuff for the rest of the day. Until finally one point where I could not move my hand anymore. And because I am also terrified of punishment, one of my friends went and told the camp nurse that he fell and hurt his hand, so she ace bandaged it and gave him an ice pack. And then he brought the ice pack to me so I could ice my hand without my leader knowing about it.
So nobody noticed that you had this? This happened before that?
Nobody noticed my broken hand, or nobody noticed my anger issues?
I would like to say both, but at the very least, your hand.
No, actually, I didn't tell my youth leader. And this was, so my youth leader at the time, he was he was only volunteer, and he couldn't get camps off very often. So this was the one time I ever actually had gotten to go to camp with him.
Okay.
And I didn't tell him, I think until I had already left that church and was graduated from high school, is when I told him that I broke my hand at that camp. He, while laughing about it, said, "I really wish you would have told me. I would have liked to get that taken care of." And that's okay. But so that's the first big camp injury.
Sam, can I put you on the spot?
Oh, beautiful.
Okay, good. Let's use this for a learning situation. Since majority of the people who listen to this are people who might actually become someone who might help out at camp and whatnot. for you personally, how would you think you would have liked it to be helped with a little bit as like someone who actually like possibly like a leader or something like that?
So there is one person at the camp that knew that my hand was hurt, but they didn't know the extent of it. And it was only because it was the friend who covered up for me. It was his leader.
Okay.
And so the nurse had notified his leader that he had hurt his hand, and she came to check on him. And she said, "Where's your ace bandage and ice pack?" And then she saw the rest of the kids sitting in front of me while I had the ice pack, so because they were trying to hide it. And essentially, she checked up on me throughout the week, and you know, she'd promised not to tell my youth leader unless it got really bad, which probably in the long run, like looking back, not probably the best for her to do. But I also know that she definitely, if she thought that it was worse than it was, she would have
actually
said something. But I've always been very good at playing off my hand injuries, because it wasn't the only time that I ever broke my hand. It was just the only time I did it at camp.
Okay.
So I knew how to kind of cover up my injury, especially because as long as I could get the swelling down, no one was going to notice anyways. And so that's kind of what the ice was for.
Okay. So
yeah. What help I would have liked, I don't think I would have liked any. As a student, but as someone who's done first aid training and been a lifeguard and a counselor, if a kid is injured, you need to get them the help that they need. I should have seen a doctor, and I did not, and it has definitely done lasting damage to my hand.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where it's kind of hard, because it's like on one hand you want to help.
And
Thank you, Dylan. Thank you. It's one of those situations where you want to help them have a good time at the camp, and so it's playing with which to do. Of like, oh, one side, you know, the kid may want to just try to move on and have a good time, and you want to help facilitate that and be like, okay, all right, let's have a good time. Maybe it doesn't look that bad. All right, we can let you have some fun time. You know, so kids are rough, you know, it is what it is. But then at the same time of looking at what is more important long term. And it's one of those situations where it's like, when you're in that moment making that decision, it's so hard. It's so hard to decide which is which.
Mm-hmm. Let me state the fact that I definitely, as a 22-year-old, did not learn my lesson about hiding injuries at camps, though, because we, as Dylan stares at me, we did a camp this spring. It was like our first big. It was our first camp rep camp, and I injured one of my fingers. And I definitely did more damage than I told our bosses, so they would not take me to the hospital. And I just went on with my injury for about a month.
At the same camp, one of our worship camp rep guys broke his arm.
Yeah, literally 2 days before this, our guitarist and lead singer broke his wrist. And then, 2 days later, I believe I fractured my finger. And I could no longer play cajon, but I definitely also did not want my bosses to make a second hospital trip, as well as I don't actually have insurance, so I didn't want to pay the bill.
Everybody's just left and right getting messed up at these camps.
Welcome to camp.
I know, right? I mean, I was getting messages before when Dylan, you started talking about the Tug of War mud deal. And it's like, that's the fun thing about camp, it seems like, is that you have this possibility to do all these fun, crazy stuff. But, I mean, obviously that comes with some risks. And that's why there's always a pushback of like, well, we have to be safe for the students, but also it's like,
no risk, no reward.
This is camp. We got to have fun. They're kids. They can take it. And it's like, it's not coming in the way of like abuse. Like, obviously,
we're gonna bring them to Jesus through injuries.
There's thoughts going on of safety through healing. So we got to hurt them first, and then we can heal them. That's the mindset.
Okay, so to continue on with camp injuries.
Your injuries, yes. Plural.
So just the next year at camp, we were playing a game. It was a nighttime game, and so it was right after, our chapel service. And so they let us out, and unbeknownst to me, the sprinklers had gone off while we were in the chapel. And they're above the field is, it's a concrete asphalt, coming from the building, and then there's about a 3-foot drop onto the grass field. And I needed to hide because that was part of the game, was hiding from all the rec team. I jumped off of this 3-foot wall and hit wet grass and rolled my ankle and twisted my knee.
I hope listeners know this whole time while you're sharing the story, Dylan's shaking his head, and
Dylan is definitely shaking his head.
I'm just cringing with pain of like, oh no, no.
Yeah. So at that point, I couldn't really get up because my leg hurt so bad. And I was vibing for a while because I wasn't getting hit, and then finally, a counselor had noticed that I just hadn't been playing. They know, someone was like, "Hey, are you okay?" And I was like, "I hurt myself," and they were like, "Do you want to keep playing?" And I was like, "No, I don't." And they were like, "Okay, just head back to the safe zone. It'll be fine." And so as I'm walking to the safe zone, and not walking, limping to the safe zone, there's the rec team who does not know that I'm injured and not playing anymore. I was sprayed with a hose, hit with about 12 water balloons.
Oh no.
And so by the time I get to the safe zone, I'm in immense pain, and soaking wet. And so finally someone was like, "Hey, we should take this kid to the nurse." So I go to the nurse. She wraps my ankle because that was, the more injured part of my leg. And I spent the rest of the week on crutches. And mind you, this was only the second night, I think. Yeah. So spent the rest of the week on crutches. I could do mud day a little bit that week, but it by the end of the week it was kind of okay, and I could do mud day, but it wasn't the most pleasant experience. And then the next year, this is the fun year, because this, at my junior year camp, my girlfriend had also come to this camp, and once again I injured myself. I don't actually know how I injured myself at this camp, but I know I injured myself, yes I do. So my girlfriend injured herself first. She injured her ankle, so she was on crutches for a day, and then it's mud day, and I'm thriving, because I'm me, except we had the smallest team that year, and so for that Mud Mountain game that I was referring to earlier,
yeah,
that meant that our rotation was going a lot more, and so we were not doing well, and I wanted to win. So that's when I started jumping off of Mud Mountain. But when you jump from the top of Mud Mountain down, because the mud is unstable, your knee wobbles, and my knee wobbled a lot. And I, then I had to limp over to Gaga Ball, and I had to play Gaga Ball, which is, there's lots of jumping and running around.
Had to.
I did. We were a small team.
Again, Dylan is shaking his head this whole time.
As a counselor, yes, some of the things kids do, I'm like, look, I get it, but bad decisions all around.
Terrible decisions. And I know that. And then, so I got, one of my counselors they noticed me hurt in Gaga Ball, and they took me out for the rest of that game. And then we get over to Tug of War, and I'm like, you know what? No, I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine. And so we get in. This is my first round of Tug of War, and we get in. And the funniest part about this is it made it into that year's camp video. And so they're videoing my game of Tug of War, and in the video, you see my team pull, and you see my knee kind of jerk one way, and then you see the other team pull, and you see my knee jerk the other way, and me just face plant into the water, or mud, I should say. And And I crawled out, and then they were like, "You should go to the nurse." So I started hobbling over, and you're not allowed to go up to actual camp until you go to like the outside showers and get all the mud off. So I'm like standing at these showers, just doing terrible. Like I can't really stand on my own. I can barely walk. And finally, I start, heading up to camp, and it's this big long hill, and I look like a crippled person because I kind of was. And one of the rec team stops me and she goes, "Are you okay?" And I was like, I got sent to the nurse's office about 20 minutes ago. I just, haven't made it up there yet. And she was like, "Sit down, please." And I was like, "No, it's fine. Like, I'm going to walk to the nurse's station." She was like, "It's on the other side of camp. Sit down." And I was like, okay. She was a nice lady, but she was being stern because she needed to be. And she walkied over to someone to bring a golf cart. So I hop onto this little golf cart, and they, drive me to the other side of camp and get me to the nurse. And she gives me ibuprofen, says, "I can't ace bandage you until you're actually clean, not just slightly rinsed off. So I'm going to give you some crutches. You're going to crutch back to your cabin and completely shower off," which was actually phenomenal because usually at camp, right after mud day, everyone's showering, so there's no hot water and zero pressure. But everyone was still doing mud day, so I had all the hot water and all the pressure. Really the only perk here. And I get dressed, and I go back to the nurse's station, and she wraps my knee. And that's how me and my girlfriend ended up as the crutches couple at camp that year.
So Sam,
yeah,
as a 20-something-year-old man,
yep,
how are your knees?
Terrible, absolutely shot.
Oh my god. So I think we need to switch over to some positive stories.
That's kind of what I was
because
thinking,
I was like, no parent listening to this is gonna be like, I'm not sending my kid to this. This is just a show waiting for people to get hurt.
Look, I may have gotten injured 3 years in a row, but I still went back to camp every year too. So
You're the crippled
way
kid.
more positives than negatives. I was a clumsy child. I know that. Poor Dylan is my camp rep partner. I hope to not be that clumsy this summer and injure myself.
Or me.
I don't think I've ever injured anybody else at a camp.
There we go. That's good, Dylan.
Except that time that I beat up Dylan in a joust and split his lip open. And then cried about it for a while because, as we said earlier, I'm a sensitive boy.
All right, Sam.
Yeah.
I don't know how to deal with this. Like on one side, I'm definitely that kid too who just plays too hard and is also like, no, it's fine. Like it's okay. I'll just keep playing. Like I don't care. I just like having fun. But at the same time, how every single time, that's awful. Good on you.
It was fine. It was
it?
fine. Actually, so the year that I hurt my knee, I was also part, because our camp did fine arts programs as well. So you, throughout the week, you would have certain times where you would train to do kind of get introduced to a new fine arts skill if you wanted to. And I joined the acting one, which we did improv that week. And so I was one of the students who was picked to do improv in front of the whole camp. And it was the last day, and I ended up having to do improv on crutches, which made for a lot of good, like, jokes and, fun scenes. But, I may have hurt myself, but I always made the best of it as well.
Well, that's good. I am glad to hear that. That's not like it ruined my whole camp experience.
No, the second that I got sent to the nurse's office every year, I was laughing. I was like, this is funny.
So, Sam, we've kind of talked about fun and games at camp.
Yeah.
You and I were going to go out to camp rep.
Yep.
And you mentioned, like, our number one goal is to have kids know Jesus deeper and to build up God's kingdom. How has camp affected your how's church camps affected your walk with Jesus as now a man in Bible college?
So definitely, I think there's a reason that I decided to go, for that year at a camp, or that summer at a camp, because I knew the positive effects that camping ministry could have on students, because I saw it, in my own self. I actually have a distinct memory of a camp rep, not from Boise Bible College, but from a different college down in Arizona. And it was really awesome because this person who had only met me about 2 days beforehand was someone who was willing to, show me God's love as a young person that I, didn't always get. And he was, I think one of the coolest parts about it was he was someone who, he heard parts of my story and, opened up to me, this is how I dealt with my struggle with that. And so just, a positive that I saw as a kid was the people that were there loved me, and they loved me because God loved me. And so it was just a really good place to, understand that, as well as the biggest positive from my years at camp was that it is where I felt called into ministry. It was the summer between my 6th and 7th grade year of school, and during a worship service, I felt God calling me into youth ministry. And granted, I didn't really understand what youth ministry was, because we had only had a youth minister for about a month at that point. But God put it on my heart, and God knew that I was ready to hear it. And I talked with my youth pastor about it afterwards, and he was very supportive and was super willing to kind of help me understand it more, and help guide me and give me a good foundation of what it was going to be like. So camp has definitely affected me in many positive ways, just through personal, spiritual, and emotional breakthroughs, and just kind of finding friends that have lasted years now. People that I've only, seen in person once, that I'll still talk to every couple of months and have meaningful conversations.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I really love hearing both sides of that. And for me personally, so the only time that I went to camp as a child, as a young lad, is a very interesting situation, because this was before I was technically a Christian, before I had made a commitment to Christ. And so I just went there just to hook up with girls and to possibly do drugs.
Bombshell dropped, man.
I love
wow.
Hey, I love the openness, Noah.
I mean, I'm just being honest. There are those kids at camp, even though it doesn't seem like it. I went there for that. And
we said my stories were gonna scare away parents.
I mean, no, not really. No, I mean, it was good that I went, because that's where we want those kids to be at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a very weird, interesting situation. I very much felt a huge impact of Christian life through camp. The two big things that really stood out to me was after a chapel thing they'll do is they had a quiet time. And so they're like, oh, okay, take some time separate and just spend time with God. And I really love the idea of that. I don't understand the logistics of that as if I was a person being a staff there and having kids kind of go out in a in a certain range and to not go too far and get in trouble. Because for sure, there was a couple times that I went with my brother and we just went and played our Game Boy and just played like Tetris and whatnot. Like that's literally what we did a couple times. There was a few times that I did separate and just had a quiet time, and it was really good. But yeah, no, I think that aspect really gave me appreciation once I became a Christian, of taking that time and separating and just spending time with God in his nature, his world that he's made. And then the second thing was with worship. And this was, so I grew up in a Presbyterian background, and like our worship was mostly just hymnals, which I love to this day. But like there was a few songs that they would play at night at like the bonfire, like singing songs and worshiping. And that was like the first time I heard How He Loves by David Crowder, and like that's one of my favorite worship songs now. And like getting to hear that for the first time was amazing and like very impactful. And so stuff like that, first time getting to take part in the whole, here's a cross, we're gonna write down a thing we're struggling with and nail it to a cross, and taking part in stuff like that actually, like, for me, was real first steps in trying to deal with like trauma and pain I had in my life, even though I wasn't like a committed Christian. Like getting to take part in that and getting to like take actions into what a Christian life actually was, I feel like was very impactful to my life. But it was very, very, very weird though, as I already mentioned, with my circumstance when I went to there.
Yeah.
How was it for you, Dylan, as a pastor child? Like, how was it for you? Because you already mentioned already how there was that struggle of it. It's just very much blended together.
Well, yeah. So just church my whole life kind of was, before I really committed to Christ, was that way. With your dad being your youth minister, a lot of churches like, yeah, it's just my dad, he's doing his thing. But it's camps, especially camps later in my life that like my dad was running a different one or didn't go to, where I actually had other adults speaking into my life. I'm like, whoa, this isn't just my dad like just doing his job. Like these are people that actually believe in what they're saying, These are people that actually care, not just because they're my parental figure, but because they care about me with the love of Christ. And so I now, as an adult, I believe in camp ministry. Well, I've done it and tried to be engaged with camp ministry each summer. Yeah, I just remember, kind of like Sam was talking about, a young man by the name of Cliff at an Olympic themed camp. He just got back from a mission trip to Australia, and our Olympic country was Australia. And Cliff just really, I couldn't have been older than 5th grade, but to have this kid, just out of high school, maybe in high school, just came back from mission trip, so excited to, engage with us 5th graders and like share the love of Christ with us. It was crazy. And I actually got to serve under Cliff last year. I didn't remember it was him until a little bit later. I just knew his name was familiar, but he was the camp director at one of our camps that my camp rep partner Taylor and I served at last year. And so I was like, whoa, I was in your cabin and then I moved away. Now I'm a student at Boise Bible College, and they sent me back to this camp that I went to as a kid, and you're the director. And just like, so we were able to reconnect that way, and he was able to dig into my life, not only as a 5th grader, but as a sophomore, junior in Bible college, and really invest in me then. And so, yeah, camp is just a time, like, there's always messages in chapel and stuff. And as a camp rep, we've been taught this many times. A lot of times, like I can tell you a ton of themes that I went to. I can't tell you one chapel message, except for like I could tell you like some of the Jonah camp, some of the camp on Daniel, and some of the camp on Elijah that I helped lead. But like as a kid, I can't tell you one like chapel message that was done at a camp. But I can tell you how the people, counselors, cooks, directors made me feel. And that's the community of Christ. And that's what led me into a deeper relationship with Jesus, is people showing that love. And so, yeah, I believe in camps.
So, one of my favorite camps that I got to help be involved with, and just because of the nature of this camp, I'm not allowed to name what the camp is called or where it was located. But essentially, this camp was a camp for foster students, or foster kids, who, and because they were foster kids, the camp was actually locked down for the entire time they were there. No one was allowed, no counselors were allowed visitors, no staff was allowed visitors, unless there was security guarding this camp. So unless you had previous authorization to be there, you were not allowed onto the campgrounds. But to see these kids who grew up in very not good homes, and there were ways that I could connect with them and my upbringing, but just to see these kids who didn't necessarily get the support, because despite being the only real Christian in my family for a long time, my family never was unsupportive of my faith. But to see these kids who didn't have that and who might not have even heard the name Jesus before this was, just to see people speaking into their lives. And there were a few of the students that I got to become very close with, and just seeing the impact that just a few days of that godly love, that how it could totally change these kids, their moods, their perspectives, their just the way that they interacted with each other and with the counselors and staff. So despite always believing in camping ministry, I think that was probably the most powerful camp that I've ever gotten to be involved with.
Also, so you mentioned that reminded me of something. I lied. I've been to 4 camps technically. 2 as kiddos and 2 as leaders. So you mentioned of like foster care and whatnot. That's also like another adjective or thing, that descriptive word that sometimes is used for Teen Challenge to describe it. Because it does kind of function in some ways like a foster home kind of. There's a it's weird to say camp because it's like you don't actually camp, but it's called houseboat ministry, and so it's basically a church camp but on the water. And Teen Challenge was actually allowed through talking with them to be a part of it, and so it wasn't just Teen Challenge, but like and by specifically Teen Challenge, I mean Teen Challenge Adolescent Boys Center. And so these teenage boys got to be a part of this. Man, the hardest thing to do as a leader, I'll tell you what, because you're dealing with very, very brokeful, sinful kids who habitually are in sin, who are basically going back out of sexual world after trying to be clean for a certain amount of time and having to resist that in public while being put into temptation spot, even though it's a Christian atmosphere. I don't know, it's so hard. But at this camp, I really found a lot of change. I don't know, this was at the point where right when I committed my life to Christ, and during this time of going to this houseboat, so a little bit about Teen Challenge in the center. It holds about, or the center I went to, the adolescent boys, it holds up to 15 boys at a time, but it can get as low as 3 boys. But if it gets to 3 boys, the center's gonna be doing rough because it's not gonna have that much money coming in because it's a nonprofit organization. So it's gonna be struggling. But at this point, it had went from 11 boys down to 3 boys, and that was including myself. No, 4 boys. 4 boys, 3 with me. And so the center was doing rough, but we were able to go. And at this point, every boy at the center had committed their life to Christ. And it was just a spiritually, it was a good spiritual time for all of us to get focused and to really start building our discipline of really creating the center into a just fully holy centered. Because that's kind of how the center works. It'll go from web and flows of being contrast with a few boys who are committed to Christ and then a bunch of boys who are just not. And so there's a bunch of confliction within that household because it is just like a family. And so once everybody is committed to Christ, it's crazy how well God moves in that moment. And so that's how I saw it move then, with just meeting so many different people. And the second time I went as a leader, and we'll kind of use this as to move into how it's like as a leader for a little bit. And for me personally, it was crazy for 2 different reasons. The first reason was that as a leader, it was weird to see the change that has happened there, going from once being there as a kid to being there as an adult, seeing how much I changed. But the first thing was this was the first time I really heard a calling to do content like this. And it was the first time coming up, and it was through prayer and from someone coming up to me who didn't know me, who never heard that I had an interest in this or anything at all. It was a really bizarre situation, a type of situation that God likes to use and like to do. And so there's that aspect. And then the second one, which I think is so much more important, is at this moment we had about 6 to 8 boys in the center, and they were not Christians at all. You know, they were very much against it. There was a lot of problems we would have daily at the center. But at that camp and through it, not all, but almost every student there shifted and literally pulled a 180. And it was truly a spiritual moment. It was crazy getting to just see how God moved in that moment, and it was just beautiful, to be honest, to come from that camp experience and to see change. And so I those are some of my big moments. Yeah, those are my two dimes I put in, my 2 quarters. It's one of those big arcade cabinets that take 2 quarters. Widow's Might. So who wants to lead into a small bit about
being a leader?
Being a leader while at camp.
I can start. I don't have like I was talking about earlier, a lot of me doing camping ministry was a lot of the behind the scenes things. But I have had a couple chances to be a leader. The first one was while I was working at a summer camp, and we did our own day camp, and so we had so the boys wouldn't stay the night with us, but we did all the other fun camp activities, and we were the ones who were in charge of doing planning the games and getting all the songs ready and stuff. And we had young boys. I think they were 5th graders, I had 4th grade boys, and it was so awesome to kind of see that even at such a young age, the knowledge and passion that kids could have for Christ. And I, as a 19-year-old at the time, it was so cool to, it almost like reignited a passion in me to see these young kids have that sort of passion. And I think that's something that that has happened every time I've gotten to, be a leader, because while I, as a camper, you don't really notice it that much when your counselor's tired, or, the counselors are good at, giving you their best, even when they may not feel it. And so there's been quite a few times where I've really not wanted to give my best, and just the passion in those students, it reignites my flame, and it gets me excited, and it gets me able to start, being more present with the students and being more present in what we're talking about and what we're doing. And so I think that is probably one of my favorite parts of being a leader or a counselor.
Yeah. Dylan, any last things?
Yeah, it's so different being a leader, a camp rep, a counselor at a camp, especially because it was at a camp where God re-broke my heart for the world. I was studying at Boise Bible College, like, cool ministry, cool this, cool that, awesome, but like the passion was there, but it was dwindling. And it was, I went to a camp and talking with these middle schoolers in my group, and there's like, yeah, my brother committed suicide. My friend's addicted to drugs. I have hardcore depression, all these different things. I'm like, man, this world is so broken. Like, like my dad left when I was, 7 years old. And just all this, like, wow, the world's broken, and these kids are in need of Jesus. And it just really reignited a fire in me. Like, I'm like, I don't even know what to do or what I can do for this group besides just keep leading them through discussions. But we were talking last week on hiding your light or making excuses for why your light's not shining as bright. Talk through spring conference, but that was really one where I was like, I can't put a bush over this little light of mine. No, I'm gonna let it shine, because these people need Jesus, and right now as their leader, I need Jesus too to shine through me. I need to be connected so that I can, through Jesus, lead into them, And so it really made me take my spiritual life more seriously in trying to benefit how Jesus worked through me into them.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. More end of the story. I mean, I think you clearly can tell we all support church camps. We support sending them. Just don't be surprised if your kid gets hurt. That's you know what.
Look, there is a reason that church camps give a little here, put your insurance here, and here's a waiver that says we're not responsible for your kid's injury.
Sure.
And look, my mom was never mad. She expected me to come home in some sort of pain. She knew her child. She knew what I was gonna do.
Yeah.
The church camps are really teaching trusting God and trusting others, and trusting God's community. Take care of one another. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. It's all present, And, okay, and let's be honest, like church camps, like majority of them are like they do put in their work to try to keep everything safe. It's just when you're a kid and you're having fun, kids like being
sometimes
rough
you're
a lot of
like
times.
Sam, and you just
jump
don't
off the top of the bouncy house.
You're the type of kid who likes to get hurt.
That's not how I hurt my finger.
No, I'm talking about how I've seen kids get hurt.
Oh, okay. I was like, I hurt my hand in the bouncy house.
You were
But-
definitely one of those kids, though.
You're the kid who always gets hurt.
Yeah, I was always the kid that gets hurt.
Sam.
We talked about
You're
this
that
already.
kid.
Oh, okay. Also, let me just state, when I worked at a summer camp, the first week before camps actually started, we were doing team bonding exercises. I hurt my knee the day before that, and during our team bonding exercises, I was holding literally on my hands straight above my head. I was holding another human being. They were standing on my hands up against like a wall, and I tore muscles in both of my forearms.
Sam, when we go out to camps, I'm gonna get you a bubble and you're staying in it.
You know what? I think that'd be a lot of fun. I could probably injure myself still.
Well, that's
Matthew and bubble wrap.
that's beautiful. We're gonna have to hear more about that once you guys get back and whatnot. But with that, let's move into one of our final segment, not the final segment, but one of our last ones. What are we learning? What are we learning? Just really quickly. I guess I can. Yeah.
What are you learning?
I guess
Noah?
I can lead it. You know what? Yeah. I'm gonna go first. I already kind of mentioned this was how I am doing. It's the very similar thing. It's audiobooks. Whoa, audio material. Whoa. It's more learning like, hey, this is a way that I can consume more Christian content better. And so that's really what I'm learning is the impact that God can make through me listening to the Bible while also reading the Bible, and like how like, hey, yeah, maybe this actually can help me by just simply consuming the word more. I can actually be feeling more joy. Interesting. So that's my bit.
What am I learning? No one asked me, so I'll just tell you. Off of last week's episode, one of the big things was quill control and watching how you speak and the jokes you make, because it definitely can affect and hurt the people around you, even if not thinking. And I kind of got preachy to Sam because I was kind of needing to preach to myself, and I was just speaking out loud to Sam for an example today. And it's something that you taught me, Noah. It's we were doing feedback for camp rep presentations, and one of the girls was really unenthusiastic the first time she did it, and really did really good the second time. And I was like, Sam, don't punch and patch when you give your feedback.
Yeah.
And that was something I was really needing to hear. I'm sorry that I was just like pushing that on you, Sam.
That's okay.
But like that's what I was just trying to remember as I was trying to think of my feedback, is not be like, well, you did really good this time, but last time you weren't really into it, but this time is, you're doing okay, type of thing. But like more focusing on the positive side of that, not bringing in the negative, or like being like, because even if I'm like, hey, you did better than last time, I was like, oh, last time you did horrible. Like, it brings in that negativity. Just keeping watching those words, watching the jokes, trying to be emotionally sensitive.
Yeah.
I'm working on.
Sam, is there anything you're learning?
Yeah, actually. So I recently had a conversation with a friend, and it was, they had asked me, because I was like, I don't want this person to find out this part of my past. And they were like, well, you love these people, right? And I said, well, of course I do. They're wonderful. And they were like, so, like, essentially, why won't you let them love you? Why are you willing to give them love and not willing to accept the love back? And so I think the thing that I'm really trying to learn right now is that I am loved, and that, I'm allowed to accept other people's love, and that I need to accept other people's love without thinking that there's, some sort of but afterwards.
Yeah. It's a hard one.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
I mean, I'm glad you're being vulnerable and doing your best to work at that. That's awesome. Really good to hear. With that, we're moving on to our final segment of the show, Minister Shoutout. Dylan, it looks like you have a Minister Shoutout pulled up.
Yeah, we were talking about camps this week, and so I was going to talk about ministry that was up at one of our camps that we did with my church, Eastwind Community Church. Part of our camp is we had kids come up from a program called City Light. And what City Light is it's a children's home in Boise for women and children, specifically, who either need help because they're homeless, running out of money, maybe the mom just needs someone to watch the kids while she gets out of a bad situation, but they keep them safe. And it's part of the Boise Rescue Mission, so it's part of a homeless group. But we had some of the kids up at our camp and intermixed with our students and our groups. And then what our church did is one day we went and we just volunteered and helped clean up the area with them. But City Light, since 2000 has been providing help for homeless women and children in Boise. They offer a safe haven of hope and love, providing emergency services such as meals, shelter, and clothing, as well as education, work search assistance, mental health counseling, addiction recovery through the New Life program, and children's programs for people in need. The Boise Rescue Mission specifically has different homes for men and women, and then women and children, and then just like veterans, homeless shelters, and then family homeless shelters. But this one is City Light, and it's women and children. And yeah, they're just loving on people, providing the need.
Sounds awesome. Yeah. So as always, that's gonna be a link down in the description. If you wouldn't mind going to that site and you can check it out, see what's there. And at the very least, we ask that you please pray for it. At the very least, pray for it, because we truly believe over here that there is power in prayer, and that we're all together. We're one force, one body, and you know, there's some people who think in the armor of God and that in prayer is a javelin, and so and let's put that to the test. Let's see if prayer is a javelin, if we can do some damage with it. But yeah, that is it though for this podcast. Again, last little things. Thank you, Sam, for joining us for this episode. Is there any way that people can contact you or find you if you want? Up to you.
Yeah.
You could be anonymous.
Yeah. I mean, you can find my Instagram at spaddock98. I'm also part of another podcast with Dylan, and no, it hasn't been around lately, but
no,
that's okay. So the 107 podcast, Dylan and I are getting ready during our camp repping this summer. We're gonna try to do some summer episodes, and it should be fun.
Which I'm excited for, because I really missed the podcast. Your last few ones were really good. Last two, a little bit with Allergic. I'll just save that for listeners to go check out. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think those are the only places to find me. I couldn't tell you what my Twitter handle is, but there's nothing funny on there anyways, so it's okay.
That's totally fine. As we mentioned earlier, you can reach us, Bread Ends, at bread_ends on Instagram. Again, that's just a awesome way to come in contact with us, just in general, to communicate, maybe suggest some topics you want to see us cover, or also if we said anything wrong or anything offensive, totally let us know. Or if you just want to share your own experiences about camp, totally talk to us, and we might even share it at the next episode.
Also, if I said anything, let them know. so I have an excuse to come back and do some crummies.
Ooh, that's a good way to bring you back on. Yeah,
Heck yeah, it is.
But that's gonna do us today. Thank you everybody for listening and doing all those things. Yeah, that's it. Dylan, end us out. I don't know. You're not talking. I need help.
Adios.
Thus is the word of the Lord. Adios.
Adios.